Timmins-James Bay.
Voilà, le grand fromage.
That's the big cheese over there.
Canadians worry about paying for childcare. Conservative and Liberal senators are worried about the appropriate temperature for serving camembert. Senator Ruth is telling us that Canadians just don't understand how hard it is for her to fly and quote from around the world to show up in Ottawa. Well, get this, she lives in Toronto, so why are we being stuck with her flights? Does this government really believe it's appropriate that taxpayers get stuck with a bill for these globe-trotting aristocratic senators?
But I tell you what, Mr. Speaker, yesterday I found out, of course, that the member for Scarborough Southwest in Toronto, reos the taxpayers $144,000 for an office in Montreal, Mr. Speaker. So he sent his staff, as opposed to having them work in his office in Scarborough, he sent them to Montreal and owes the taxpayer $144,000. I hope he'll do the right thing and repay that $144,000.
Before I go back to the honourable member for Timmins-James Bay, just remind all honourable members that questions ought to relate to the administration of the government and answers ought to be directed back towards the question. The honourable member for Timmins-James Bay.
Exactly, Mr. Speaker. This is Parliament. We're dealing with the business of government, and he's acting like the shopkeeper in a Monty Python cheese sketch. I mean, we're talking about it. We've got one senator with $250,000 in bogus claims, another of $100,000. And we're talking about taxpayer accountability. Next week, Mike Duffy goes on trial for charges of accepting a bribe that nobody is charged with giving him. The bribe involved the Prime Minister's lawyer and Chief of Staff. So we're asking the Prime Minister to clarify Canadians how this can be. Will the Prime Minister agree to speak at the trial?
The honourable Cabinet Secretary of the Prime Minister.
As we said on a number of occasions, we'll continue to provide all the assistance that is needed by the Crown in order to prosecute Mr. Duffy. He's accused of taking illegal expenses, and if he's found guilty of that, he should face the full extent of the law, Mr. Speaker. The only leader in this House that will be testifying in front of a court is actually the Leader of the Opposition, who owes $400,000 to the people of Canada for illegal office expenses. And he can bring 67 other members of the NDP with him when they explain to Canadians how they're going to repay the $3 million that they owe them in illegal expenses.
The honourable member for West